Good evening, race fans, and welcome to 2022 Midwest Sim Racing Association Rapid Fire Pizza Nationals Round of 8 race number 1. We are here today at Las Vegas Motor Speedway to kick off the first race of 3 for the round of 8 as we get into the final round of the playoffs before the championship. And I gotta say, folks, the championship is looking mighty intense. My name is Mason Heimball with Team Goon Squad, bringing you the action here tonight, 1080p, 60 frames a second. Folks, I hope you all are ready for the action here tonight as we get ready to see it unfold. Drivers getting themselves ready for their qualifying runs here as they make their way around Las Vegas Motor Speedway for the first time with the green flag. Getting a first timed lap here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Chad Gooningsman, the number 9 machine that we're looking at currently, as we're going to take a look at the championship as it currently stands. Right now, David Santini currently holding a very, very close lead right now in the championship with 2,058 points as it stands. Colby Baber just 2,033 points in that second place spot. So very close for the championship spot here. Evan Longacre just a little bit further behind that in third place with 2,018 points. But Jeffrey Meyer only 3 points behind him, and Kenny Meadows, again, only 2 points actually behind that fourth place spot here. Excuse me. Nope, that should be right. Yes. So the fourth place spot of Jeffrey Meyer with Evan Longacre, or Kenny Meadows in sixth place there. My notes here have the positions of all the drivers here mixed up a little bit, so my brain is having a little bit of an aneurysm here trying to do the math here, but it's all right. It is not as difficult as it looks here, as we're going to get a little bit further into our qualifying run here. Billy Fitzgerald currently holding the pole at this moment with a 29.86. Barry Stevens not too far behind him at this point in time. Just 0.6 of a second, actually 0.6 of a second behind Billy Fitzgerald. So a few drivers, 7 drivers to be exact, have already completed their qualifying runs here as we get a little bit further into our qualifying run, and we get about 2 minutes left before we see the checkered flag wave, and drivers are left with only wherever they ended up on the starting lineup here. So as I jumble my notes around here, folks, taking a look at Daniel Simmons, who just moved himself up to the top of the timing tower here with a 29.86, actually matching the pace of Billy Fitzgerald. So I got to assume that it was only beaten by thousandths of a second past that. So Simmons, Fitzgerald having a very similar pace here in qualifying. Let's take a look at driver Robert Cook, who's actually just completed his times, or his laps here today. Mike Howerton also having completed his one qualifying lap here. Drivers only have that one chance to be able to get around track and put down the best possible time here. And for drivers that are competing in the playoffs here, only, again, being that it is the round of 8, only 8 drivers left in that playoff fight. So that is going to be David Santini, who currently holds the spot for the championship at this moment. Colby Baber in second, Evan Longacre in third, Jeffrey Meyer in fourth, Kenny Meadows in fifth, Mike Howerton in sixth, Billy Fitzgerald in seventh, and Barry Stevens going to be in that 8th place spot. So with all of that in mind, for Team OSN Racing, it has been a phenomenal season practically. Let's see here, 4 drivers from OSN Racing have all made their way into the round of 8. And let's see, well, actually now, we are actually in the round of 8, so this would be 4 drivers left in the playoffs here. So after tonight, we'll determine who is going to essentially work their way into that final round here. So that is who qualified into this round as of last week. Let's see where drivers are going to end up after tonight here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, as we have the drivers getting ready for today's race on the starting grid. And up in the front row, Daniel Simmons alongside Billy Fitzgerald. Just behind them in the second row is Barry Stevens and Evan Longacre. Third row, Jeffrey Meyer and Kenny Meadows. Jamie Knopf, Chad Gunningsman in our fourth row with Mike Howerton and Colby Baber. In our fifth row, Robert Cook and David Santini in our sixth row. As we move ourselves down the grid here, taking a look at Scott Stevens and Matt Knight in our seventh row, John Binder and Chris Hansen in our eighth row, Kyle Mullering going to round out the field here. 17 drivers going to be out on the track here today for 140 laps of racing. So I expect to see possibly pretty early on a lot of these drivers kind of get into their own little groove. Potentially see a little bit of the field get not necessarily super spread out, given that here at Las Vegas, it is a 1.5 mile long track. So drivers are going to be able to build up quite a bit of speed here and be able to keep up with each other relatively easily. But we'll see as the race progresses on, as tires start to come into play here, where the field kind of ends up. As we get ourselves ready for the pace car to make its way around the track for the very first time, beginning our pace lap with just about 10 seconds left before that is underway. But folks, thank you all for tuning in, and thank you all for joining us once again for race number 1 of the round of 8 here for the 2022 Midwest Sim Racing Association Rapid Fired Pizza Nationals. Big thank you and big shout out to our sponsors for this season, for this series, Rapid Fired Pizza, as well as Old School Ninjas, for coming on board and being able to give these drivers a home to be able to come to every single week and race for, well, bragging rights, among other things. So for Daniel Simmons, Billy Fitzgerald, they're both going to have a really good opportunity here at the start of tonight's race. 140 laps that we are going to see overall tonight. Lap 35, we will see the yellow come out for the stage break. And that will allow drivers to have a, not necessarily a super early pit stop, but early enough that it'll give drivers a really good chance to get through the pits, get a fresh set of tires, and get ready for another fight going into what will be essentially the last half of the race, while it is about the 25% mark of the race, I believe, is where that yellow comes out. And away we go here. The green flag drops for the very first time at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Everyone shuffled up where they started. The only driver kind of in his lonesome bump here in the front is that of Barry Stevens, the 78 machine. Going to be right in the middle as we come down the back straightaway. Daniel Simmons going to block off that opportunity there for Barry Stevens that he may or may not have had. He's going to fall back just a little bit. Meanwhile, we've got action here as we come out of turn 4. Back across the checkered line here, Jeffrey Meyer, the 50 machine, looking for some action down on the inside lane, catching up to the 78 of Barry Stevens in third place. Kenny Meadows, he's 3 wide, right in the middle of a 3-wide sandwich as we come out of turn 2 onto the back straightaway. Jamie Knopf, the number 28 machine, able to get out ahead of these drivers up into 5th place here as we work our way through 3 and 4. Meadows, the 96 Rolex machine, right on the tail of the 48 of Jamie Knopp. Timing and scoring will show him as 28. I do apologize for that, but he is actually the 48 machine. Kenny Meadows looking real solid here, staying low as we go through 1 and 2. Just behind them, bumper-to-bumper action between Longacre, Santini, the current championship leader, looking to gain as many positions as he possibly can before the stage break happens here. The 79 machine looking very, very solid here. Up 5 spots from where he started in tonight's race. Currently the hard charger, if you would want to call him that, here. Lap 4 of 140. It's still very early on in this race, so got to be wondering too what that's going to mean for the tire wear of the 79 machine, and frankly for any other drivers that are really trying to push it here, trying to get up the field as much as they possibly can. Billy Fitzgerald, meanwhile, the 22 machine, keeping up ahead of the field, just trying to get himself as much distance between Daniel Simmons' 61 machine. Here as we go through turns 1 and 2. Single file throughout most of the field up in the top 5. It's starting to kind of spread out here through. There's a good shot of it coming down the back straightaway, heading into turn number 3 here. Most of the field having found that groove that I was mentioning earlier, that spot on the track, and is now going to kind of stick with it. The only driver not really opting to do so here, David Santini, he's going low right below the white line here, almost clipping the grass there on the front straight, able to keep it together as we go through 1 and 2. He's side by side with Barry Stevens down the back straightaway. Stevens a little bit more speed. He's able to get out just far enough ahead of Santini here through 3 and 4, but Santini now going to be stacked up right on the rear end of the 78 machine as we come out of turn 4 and back across the checkered line. Very, very good action for Santini at this moment. Again, the current championship leader, but up at the front of the field, things starting to get a little bit more heated as we come out of 4 and back out onto the front, well, the front curve essentially across the checkered line here. Meyer getting a little bit of pressure from Jamie Knopf in the 48 machine, showing again as the 28 in timing and scoring. Starting to see Meyer, the 50 car, get up to the rear end of Daniel Simmons in the 61 machine, but still a little bit of distance between these drivers. Not exactly something that to worry about from the perspective of Simmons, but for Meyer, he's got a lot to worry about here as Knopf down onto the inside through 1 and 2. He's making a challenge for the 3rd place spot. He wants to be up on the podium here tonight. Let's see what Jamie Knopf has got in store for the 48 machine, currently holding in 4th at this moment, as Meyer doing an admirable job of holding his line as well as his momentum, keeping that 3rd place spot as we come back across the checkered line here. Knopf still there. He's not going anywhere anytime soon, and I think at this point is waiting for Meyer to burn those tires off, because folks, as much as Meyer is fighting and fighting, he is going to be burning off those tires up there a lot more than Knopf is down on that bottom lane, but he's able to get a very good run there, it looks like, out of 2 on the back straight, build up a lot of momentum and make it work, and he's back up ahead of Jamie Knopf. So Meyer definitely he's well aware of what he's doing in that 50 machine and doing a very phenomenal job of keeping up with the field as they get themselves stacked back up to the leaders of Billy Fitzgerald and Daniel Simmons. Meyer gonna give a challenge on the outside lane here. Simmons staying low, and I'm not sure if that was exactly a challenge or just more or less trying to see what he can do here. Meyer gonna look down low, realizing he's, well, probably knew he was a little too far away at that moment. But let's take a look at some of the action happening a little bit further behind them, as these drivers, I mean, they're all just getting lined up, kind of getting a little bit of a draft built up here, it seems like, and starting to slowly but surely get themselves stacked back up into small packs. And even as I say that, we're looking at David Santini, Kenny Meadows, and Barry Stevens. Santini holding on to that 5th place spot with Meadows hot on his tail. These 3 drivers are starting to catch up here to the top 4, so I don't know, things could get real interesting here very soon for a lot of these drivers here, as there's action unfolding between Kenny Meadows and Barry Stevens as we ride on board with Meadows in the 96 machine, the Rolex. As we come back into turn number 1, Meadows going to stay down low, and this is going to give you guys a real good idea of a lap here at Las Vegas. And if you're listening to the throttle, you can hear they're not really lifting all that much. Meadows taking the straightest possible line he can, similar to what other drivers are doing here, to try and shave as much time as they possibly can on their laps. The field, as they were starting to look like they were getting themselves grouped back up here, that's starting to change now here once again. I can't imagine that drivers are being too, well, they might have started to back off on their tires, to be completely honest, realizing that they're probably going a little too aggressive on them on a track like Las Vegas here in the desert heat. The track is going to be very, very hot. Combine that with hot tires, it's a recipe for disaster. Let's work our way from the tail, well, roughly the tail end of the field. Well, let's actually, you know what? Let's take a look at our field here and see where everyone currently stands at this moment. Scott Stevens, the 55 machine, currently the driver at the tail end of the field in the 55. Excuse me, I almost said Alien 51, but it's Area 51. No coincidence there or anything. Anyway, Scott Stevens currently holding on that tail end of the field, with Chris Hansen, the GameStop 20 machine, just ahead of him in that 16th place spot. John Binder just ahead of him in the 33 machine as well. So these are drivers that are starting to find themselves a little bit further from the herd, and this is where the stage caution can really kind of help drivers in this situation, in my opinion. It really helps give drivers another opportunity to have those close battles, or even just have someone to chase along with and just follow for the race. It's always a great thing to have. But a little bit further ahead of these drivers, we've got Chad Gunningsman, the number 9 machine, in 14th at this point. And Gunningsman is kind of where the field really starts to see a bit of separation here. Robert Cook is currently ahead of him in 13th, the 64 Wrangler machine. And then you have Colby Baber up to the leaders. Now, from Robert Cook to Chad Gunningsman, there's about 2.25 seconds. That's not a huge deal. Or, well, it's not a huge deal, but it's not a huge gap is what I meant to say. So it might not look like much, but it definitely shows you how, you know, once you kind of get out of the pack, once you're away from other drivers and you're not able to use that draft and get behind whoever it is in front of you to go faster, it can really have an impact on your overall pace at the end of the day. So with lap 21 of 140 currently on the timing tower, or well, rather the ticker. Lap 21 as the leaders, 22 actually as we cross the line. We are just about 13 laps before we see the stage break come out here. And frankly, this is probably the point in the race too where you can start to really see who's going to struggle with tire wear or who's going to have a good long run car, essentially. And right now, we've seen some drivers have some good momentum at the start of the race. Billy Fitzgerald has been one of them, able to keep himself up at the front of the field. And very, it's been incredible how close he's seen competitors on his rear view and how he's been able to just keep chugging along here, not let that get the best of him, as you should as a driver. Definitely don't want to let those mirrors get in your head, because it's a very critical mistake that you can make as a driver. So looking up here in the top 5, seeing a little bit of the field start to stack back up here once again. I gotta wonder if that's because everyone's getting into more of a conservative kind of pace here with their tires, not trying to be overly aggressive on these on that set of good years that they have under them right now, because again, you don't want to have a hot track and hot tires. That's just going to make for a very, very difficult race for every driver on the track. So a little bit of action starting to unfold just outside the top 5 with Kenny Meadows, Evan Longacre, Mike Howerton, as well as Daniel Simmons. All of these drivers trying to make up positions that they've lost here, and this is potentially a good look at some drivers that may have a good short run speed here at Las Vegas, but ultimately the long run might be where these cars can see themselves suffer a little bit. Daniel Simmons down 5 spots from where he started. Longacre down 4 spots from where he started. Contact unfolding between Howerton and Longacre. The 95 goes sideways across the checkered line. The yellow flag flies here. Howerton is going to be kicking himself for that one. That, I think, after being viewed by the marshals, that may be declared. Oh, man, that's a tough angle to see that from, because it almost seems like he... Oh, okay, so this is a little difficult to digest here, folks. Well, not necessarily difficult, but this is a little interesting to digest. So he gets a little loose there. He kind of saved it, and it snaps back on him. He goes up, and he just barely taps the rear end of Evan Longacre, and they both go sliding across the checkered line. Now, it appears to be Mike Howerton came out the least damage from that one. Let's take a look at Evan Longacre's machine and see if he has any Ooh, yeah. He definitely took a big spicy hit to the rear. It seems to be that the good old iRacing simulator it can't decide what it wants that rear end to look like right now. So we're just going to go with that. But that's the first caution of the race here tonight, folks. And you know what? Actually, I want to take a look. I want to ride on board here from Mike Howerton's view, and I want to see what kind of happened here. So there's the slide. There's the contact. Let's go ahead, back this up here one more time. Oh, it's tough. He did everything he could to try and save that, and I think for a moment, oh man, I don't know. I think once he felt that car starting to slide, he knew he was in trouble, and was probably just hoping and praying that he didn't make contact with Longacre here in the 95 machine, who's still down here in the pits and not showing any signs of going anywhere yet. And it looks like that Longacre might be out of the car. I'm not sure. I can't exactly tell from here, but either way, either how, a tough break for Mike Howerton, and for Evan Longacre, a heartbreaking way to start off the first race of the round of 8. An absolutely heartbreaking way. There's no other words to describe that. That's just... that one's going to leave us a little bit of a sting, I think, for Longacre, and I think for Howerton, he's going to feel pretty bad about that one. So the lights are off on the pace car. We're going to get ready to go back to green flag here. It's Billy Fitzgerald, Jamie Knopp up in the front row, Daniel Simmons, Colby Baber in our second row, Robert Cook, Jeffrey Meyer in our third row, David Santini, Barry Stevens in our fourth row, Kenny Meadows, Matt Knight in our fifth row, Kyle Mollring, Chad Gunningsman in our sixth row, Howerton and Stevens, seventh row, John Binder, Evan Longacre in our eighth row, and Chris Hansen taking the tail end of the field here. Looks like it will be alongside Evan Longacre here. Actually, just ahead of Evan Longacre. Longacre going to take the tail end of the field here with a sadly beaten up, bruised up 95 machine. But hopefully for Longacre, it doesn't affect the drivability of the car too much. Hopefully he will be able to keep that car moving and grooving here as we go back to green flag racing here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway for the double down 210. Billy Fitzgerald doing a phenomenal job getting himself a nice good gap here as we take a look at the field coming out of turn 2 and down the back straightaway. We're too wide in the midfield, and it's going to be some pretty heated action here with Robert Cook, the 64 machine. Oh, we're possibly going to see some 3-wide action. It doesn't quite happen this time around. Kenny Meadows up ahead of Robert Cook here at this moment. Let's see if Cook is going to stack himself up with anybody. Close work here with Kyle Mollring up on the outside lane. He's going to make his way right around Cook here. Down the back straightaway, 3 wide. With Colby Baber, Matt Knight, and Kenny Meadows all in the bunch here. Matt Knight finally finding his way out of that predicament. Able to get himself now into that 6th place spot. All of these drivers taking advantage of the fresh tires, of the restart here. Everyone now shuffling their way back up to the front of the field. But again, folks, this is going to be another test here of a driver's short run test, or, well, short run ability, but as well as long run. Again, this is, well, actually, excuse me, I take that back, because we're still going to see the stage break here at lap 35, so that'll be next lap around. So they'll have another opportunity to be able to rack them and stack them and have another good fight here. So this is another good short attempt, or, well, not attempt, but a good battle before that happens this next lap around. So they'll come across the line. It'll be lap 35, and next time by, the yellow will come out, and we will see the stage break here for the first time. I believe it'll actually be once all drivers have made their way across the checkered line here. Nope, it'll be next time around. Okay. I thought I had that right the first time. And so with everyone coming through and already getting a fresh set of good years, filling up on fuel, what have you, actually I take that back. There are still a handful of drivers that did not come down through pit road, and there is the yellow flag coming out indicating the stage break here. So it's going to be Billy Fitzgerald, Jamie Knott, not that any of this really matters now, Daniel Simmons, Colby Baber, they're all going to come down through pits here and get a fresh set of good years. Meanwhile, I assume the rest of the field will continue to pace with the pace car, I would imagine, unless they want to just top off on fuel just to get themselves ready for the next stint. I guess that wouldn't hurt. But while these drivers do that here, folks, we are going to go ahead and we're going to take a quick commercial break up here in the booth. Stay tuned, folks. Don't go anywhere, because we will be back for more iRacing right here on Team Goon Squad in just a few moments. Welcome back, race fans. Yes, we're taking a look at a mad dash out of pit road. Look at all the drivers making their way out of pit lane here. It is quite the race here out of pit road. And it's going to be Barry Stevens still leading the field here at this moment. It appears that he decided, no, he did make his way through the pits. Must have been a heck of a pit stop. But anyhow, it's going to be Barry Stevens up in the front of the field. Jeffrey Meyer in second. Kenny Meadows in third. Matt Knight in fourth. And David Santini in fifth, with Kyle Mollering in sixth. Now, this is going to be a little bit of an interesting restart here, given that Billy Fitzgerald, the 22 machine, has, he's done a phenomenal job at being up in the front of the field and staying up in the front. Now going to be restarting more in the midfield. Let's see what the 22 machine is going to have here tonight for the remainder of tonight's race. And let's see what Barry Stevens and Jeffrey Meyer are going to do, as well as Kenny Meadows. We've already seen all of these drivers up here in the front, fighting for positions and really ultimately trying to get up in the front and lead some laps here tonight, as well as possibly come home with a trophy here tonight. So with all of the 8, I believe, well, no, it'll only be 4 drivers. Excuse me. 4 drivers all competing in the last round of the playoffs before we see the championship round. David Santini, Colby Baber, Evan Longacre, and Jeffrey Meyer all duking it out in the playoffs here, and in the final round of the playoffs at that, here in the round of 8. So far, Jeffrey Meyer and David Santini, as we go back to Green Flag Racing, are right now the drivers to look out for in that top 4 in the championship. So Meyer here in the 50 machine, even though he's currently 4th in the playoffs, still looking for a good finish here tonight to get himself as many points as possible going into next week's race at Homestead. So good action here on this restart as we see all of these drivers gunning for positions and seeing a little bit of wobble out of these cars here on this restart here as well, given that we kind of went to green flag racing for only a short period of time before having that caution come out. Might have cooled the tires down just a little bit here. I can't imagine too much, or maybe even it's just the track is just ridiculously hot here at this point in the race, and that very well could be a possibility here. I'll have to bring my thermometer with me next time and make sure that we get some accurate updates from the track temperature here at Las Vegas, and well, not only Las Vegas, but from just future tracks in general. Just more information to share with you folks at home and give you more insight as to what the drivers are currently dealing with out on track. Even despite the fact that these drivers are racing in the iRacing simulator, there are a number of things that are being, well, calculated and being done behind the scenes that, frankly, unless you're a technology nerd, probably wouldn't appreciate too much, but a lot goes into making these races as close to feeling like the real deal as possible, and I think that's just incredible. And the fact that all these leagues come together and compete with each other week in and week out is just absolutely incredible. I love the passion and the spirit of the motorsport community. Just wouldn't have it any other way here, folks. But the action here looking rather tame on this restart here as well, and even looking at the tail end of the field, this is kind of what I was expecting to see here going into this restart. Now, knowing that this track is definitely tough to make passes at, it's been evident of that. A very, very fast track that we have here. In fact, seeing top speeds of about 196 miles an hour. So we're definitely not taking a cruise around the park. And it's, again, not somewhere where you can make the outside lane an effective passing lane. You know, it's not like Auto Club. It's not like Michigan International, where you can kind of have a multi-lane sort of race and really make it kind of whatever you want it to be at that point, which Las Vegas here has some great racing in its own right, but it's definitely going to make it a challenging night here for the drivers for the 2022 MSRA Rapid Fired Pizza Nationals. Also brought to you by Old School Ninjas. Starting to see some action up here towards the front of the field as we have a battle for the lead. Kenny Meadows, Barry Stevens, both taking it side by side through 1 and 2. Let's see what they've got in store here. Meadows going to drop back behind the 78 of Stevens here down the back straightaway. Set himself back up for another shot here. Going back through 1 and 2 as we come out of turn 4, but with that, giving up a little bit of distance here, but he definitely seems to be aware that he's a little bit faster in these turns right here through 1 and 2 and out on the front curve. But it definitely seems like Stevens has some incredible pace here. Now, let's actually take a moment here and ride on board for a lap or two with David Santini, the current championship leader here in the race, and let's listen to the sights and sounds here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Just a taste of what it's like here to drive a couple laps here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway and what it takes to be in the top 3 of a race. Here with the MSRA Rapid Fired Pizza Nationals, and I gotta say, folks, it is some top caliber driving that we are seeing from these drivers. Now, folks, if you're not familiar with the iRacing service, if you've never taken a lap in any of the cars that iRacing has to offer, I can tell you it is a truly life-changing experience if you are passionate about not only, well, maybe not even just motorsports, but just cars in general. If you just like going fast, it might be something you're into. Anyway, the point being here is that once you actually get out on track with other drivers and you see that checkered flag fly, or rather, not the checkered flag, but rather the green flag fly, yeah, things get interesting very quickly, and you find yourself learning new things at a rapid rate. The lap 55 of 140 as we come across the checkered line here. Looking at sort of the top 10 here at this moment, with Matt Knight currently sitting in 9th, Kyle Mollering just ahead of him in 8th, and Billy Fitzgerald, the 22 machine, sitting in that 7th place spot here at this moment. Again, Billy Fitzgerald, having led a few laps here tonight, going to be looking to try and see if he can get himself up, climb himself back up to the front of the field here. But that might be a difficult challenge to do so here tonight, given, you know, the pace, the speed of some of the drivers here tonight, and really, ultimately, the fight came down to pit road. That was a mad dash that we saw after the stage break. All of the drivers scrambling for positions here. This is a truly incredible thing to witness. Looking at last week's race, at the Roval, hopefully I'm looking at the right thing here, but Matt Dyer, Brett Wall, Colby Baber coming home with the top 3 last week for the race at the Roval, at the Charlotte Roval. And gotta say, the racing there was very impressive to witness. A lot of drivers pushing the limits of these cars, and not only the cars but themselves. at that here as well. So all of these drivers getting an opportunity here to show what they have in a road course setting. Colby Baber here, the number 10 machine, currently holding on to that 10th place spot after coming home with a podium last week, 3rd place at the Roval. Now hope for a good finish here tonight. Currently sitting 10th. Again, it's going to come down to a battle in the pits. It's going to be a strategy game. And some of these drivers we've seen, well, it's been fairly consistent with a lot of this field, I'd have to say, as far as pit strategies are concerned. Not really, I don't think we're going to see anything too out of the ordinary. I don't think we're going to see anyone try and make any drastic moves here. But even if you were going to try drastic moves here, I mean, if you're Colby Baber, you might consider it, being that you're 2nd place in the championship here, and David Santini currently sits 2nd place in the race and is the championship leader at this point in time. I mean, he's going to get quite the points bump after tonight's race, but still 3 races left in the series in total, so not all hope is lost, but it's definitely going to be a harder fight for Colby Baber if he doesn't get a good finish here tonight. Now, meanwhile, up at the front of the field, we're starting to see a little bit of fight happening for the lead as Kenny Meadows sits alongside Barry Stevens down on the inside as we come out of turn 2 and onto the front straightaway. Santini looking to possibly, he's looking for any room he can here. Kenny Meadows with the moves. Through 3 and 4, takes the lead here tonight for the first time in the 96 Rolex machine. Finally, gonna see clean air ahead of that Ford Mustang here for the first time. And Kenny Meadows now gonna have an opportunity to breathe here for a moment as the field behind them continues to duke it out, whether it's side by side or bumper to tail. Lap 65 of 140, and drivers have 4 sets of tires here tonight in the pit, so having already used, I would assume, at least 1 set already. Depending on how this run goes, I mean, if we see a caution come out, which I pray that we don't, because the green flag action here with these drivers is always good, and as I say that, it's calamity for Meyer. And the 61 machine gets a hard hit. Daniel Simmons with massive contact here in this one. The commentator's curse is instantaneous here tonight. Let's take a look at the instant replay and see exactly how this one unfolded. Meyer gets into the rear end of Daniel Simmons, sending him spinning around into the top of the track. Meyer making contact with Colby Baber. Baber right into the side of Simmons, sending him flying, spinning through the air like a ballerina, and ultimately coming to a stop right in the middle of turn 4. So the field now going to make their way down through pit road. as Jeffrey Meyer, Mike Howerton, Daniel Simmons, Robert Cook, Mike Howerton here doesn't seem to be too affected by things here, but Meyer definitely having some damage to be worked out on the front end of that 50 machine. Daniel Simmons, similar story there. That, I don't know, folks, that could potentially be the end of their races here tonight, depending on if the pit crew is able to get those cars repaired enough to be able to get back out on track here, but only time will tell. So tonight definitely is a tough break for some drivers here tonight, getting involved in this last wreck. And frankly, for Colby Baber and Jeffrey Meyer, I mean, definitely not the race that they wanted, that either of them would want to see themselves down in the pits or getting themselves involved in an incident here. Jeffrey Meyer, just to clarify here, the 50 machine still down in pit road after 2.5 minutes, as well as Daniel Simmons. Mike Howerton as well. The 51 machine also going to be down in pit road for a little bit longer than expected. Luckily for Colby Baber, he's able to keep himself out here on track and looks to be only what I would say to be minor damage to that front end. Will hopefully not affect the performance too much as we get back to green flag racing here. For the double down 210, Jamie Knopp, Kenny Meadows going to take it side by side here, duking it out for that second place spot here as we enter our halfway point in tonight's race. 70 laps left to go here. We've seen the first half. Let's see what the next half has in store for us, as there's action forming up here for the fight for the lead. But meanwhile, Billy Fitzgerald, contact with the wall. He slows his car down to a stop here, narrowly avoiding traffic. That was a close call for Billy Fitzgerald in the number 22 machine. We stay green flag racing here. Kenny Meadows keeps the lead at this moment. Jamie Knopf in second place. Barry Stevens, David Santini sitting second, third, and fourth respectively. And starting to see a little bit of a single file spread happening for these drivers. Meanwhile, just behind them, Chad Gunningsman, John Bender, Matt Knight, they're all duking it out for that fifth place spot here. Gunningsman right on the tail of Matt Knight, trying to get a good run here through 1 and 2 onto the back straightaway. Good momentum here for the 9 machine down the back straight. Getting stacked up right behind the 25 of Matt Knight as we go through 3 and 4, backing off here just a little bit, trying to avoid getting into the rear end there. Gunningsman keeping it down low, trying to make that pass. Meanwhile, just ahead of him, Santini, the 79 machine, now cracking his way up into the top 5. A close call with the wall through turn 1 there, out of 2 and onto the back straightaway. Kyle Mollering, Matt Knight, they're both going to be duking it out here side by side. Mollering takes a step back here behind the 25 of Matt Knight, and frankly, a lot of this field doing the same here. And unfortunately to say, Jeffrey Meyer has called it a race here and is taking it behind the wall. He is no longer going to be competing in the rest of tonight's race. So for Jeffrey Meyer, the 50 machine, that is going to be a tough end for the Double Down 210 here at Las Vegas. Battle here for 8th place between Scott Stevens and David Santini. Scott Stevens here, the 55 machine, who we saw a little bit earlier was at the tail end of the field earlier in the race, now sitting in the top 10. Just goes to show how much strategy and just the turn of events can go in your favor sometimes in a race. As long as you keep it green, keep your nose clean and avoid any incidents that you possibly can, you'll do just fine. Taking a look here on board with John Binder, the number 33 machine. As we work our way through 3 and 4, just seeing what it's like on track here. Just a little bit past the halfway mark in tonight's race, and gotta say, so far it looks relatively smooth at this point in time. It doesn't seem like the track is too terribly hot for drivers to handle, and really just ultimately working out to be a very, very competitive race here tonight. While things are spread out here at this moment, what we are going to start to see here before too long, potentially, after that last yellow flag that we saw, we could see a green flag pit stop come underway here, and I think that's potentially what some drivers may be looking for here tonight, kind of anticipating a long green flag run to happen here, which we did see happen before that yellow flag ultimately came out here. But lap 82 of 140 here at this moment, and Jamie Knopf doing a fantastic job of keeping himself up in the front of the field. Kenny Meadows in second place. Barry Stevens taking that third place spot here at this moment. Looking a little bit further back, Chad Goodingsman sitting in fourth here at this point in time. Kyle Mollering in fifth place. At this point, just about a half a second behind Chad Goodingsman. Matt Knight going to be just about a half a second behind him as well in that sixth place spot in the number 25 machine. John Binder, the 33 car, sitting in his seventh place here at this moment. This is kind of the last driver here in the top 10 where we see a kind of close group here. Going a little bit past that, we have Scott Stevens, the 55 machine, currently in 8th place, but just over 4 seconds from the rest of this field here. Now, we can kind of give you a little bit of that idea here from the track map. Oh, it is a little bit cut off there. I do apologize for that, but hopefully that gives a little bit of the idea that I'm trying to portray here. Robert Cook just behind Scott Stevens in the 64 Wrangler machine, holding on to that 9th place spot here at this moment. David Santini in 10th in the 79 machine, going to come through pit road. Okay, this is where things get interesting here. So, well, I don't know, because it's lap 85. Well, when is the last time? So he would have came in with the rest of the field last time around. Is he getting tires? He definitely is. So a quick pit stop here for Santini, possibly taking an undercut strategy to get himself around the field, as we're looking at this intense battle here between Kyle Mollering, Chad Gooningsman for the 4th place spot as we come out of turn number 4. Gooningsman backing off there just a little bit, and probably not intentionally either. Going to get up in front of Matt Knight in the 25 machine. Matt Knight going to dodge that 9 car, get into the bottom lane as we come through 3 and 4. Knight now going to move his way up into 5th place. Gooningsman possibly having a little bit of troubles here in that 9 machine. Let's go ahead and ride on board here with Gooningsman and see what the case might be here. Yeah, it definitely seems like he's maybe burned off those tires pretty early on here. And even as we're saying that here, Mike Howerton, very slow here in the pits. And I think maybe calling the end of his night here. We also see Billy Fitzgerald down here in the pits as well. He's been down there for quite some time. But surprised to see Mike Howerton kind of making his way kind of leisurely through pit road, not really worried about time here. Given that he is a few laps down here at this moment, I'm sure he's probably not too worried about where he finishes at the end of tonight's race. So just taking things easy here as the rest of the field continues on with their fight. Lap 91 of 40. Just under 50 laps left to go here tonight. Watching from the rear suspension of the 25 of Kyle Mollering. We're looking at Matt Knight in the 25. As we come on the back straightaway here, Matt Knight going to make that challenge here down on the inside lane, trying to make a pass here up into the top 4. Mollering putting up a good fight here, keeping himself up there in that 4th place position. Chad Gooningsman, meanwhile, coming down into pit road here on lap 93. This might be an indication that I think I might have been right when I said that he might have burned through his tires there, and might have been fighting that car a little bit sooner than he would have liked here at this point in the race. But that could also be that track temperatures are just getting hotter. The sun has been baking down on the track for quite some time. Drivers have been turning laps here for a little over an hour at this point, and I gotta say, that's definitely going to have an effect on the overall temperature of the track here. So Colby Baber now going to make his way through the pits here as well. Currently sitting down a number of laps. Looks to be about 3 laps here at this point in time. And so I think for Colby Baber, he has decided it's going to be the end of his race here tonight. But I got to wonder here, as we're approaching 40 to go, are some of these drivers potentially going to be thinking of coming in here and fighting the rest of the race on that last set of tires? It definitely seems to me that these drivers are able to keep these cars out for 40 laps, so I gotta wonder what the strategy might be for some of these drivers as, again, we continue to get closer to the end of tonight's race. Scott Stevens, he makes his way through in the 55, Area 51 machine. So slowly but surely seeing some drivers trickle their way down through pit road. Knight and John Binder, they continue to duke it out here for that 5th place spot. And again, folks, most of these drivers are all pretty well spread out at this point in the race. Not too many battles happening at this point. It's all going to come down to strategy. A little bit of a wobble there out of the rear end of the 25 of Matt Knight. As we come across the line for lap 101, a little bit of a touch to the grass from the 33 of John Binder. Chad Goodingsman, a little bit of lap traffic here for the drivers on the lead lap. Possibly a little bit of a slide there from the number 9 machine. Keeping it together though. After he came out of pits not too long ago, just a little over 10 laps since he came back out of pit road, and gonna be on those fresher set of good years and be able to make up a little bit of time here as he continues his way around the field. And Kyle Mollering, the 84 machine, currently looks like we're going to see Matt Knight, the 25 driver, also make his way down through pit road. So I think this is the start of that final pit strategy for these drivers, and they're going to take it. Matt Knight's at least going to take it about 35 laps to the checkered flag, and for the rest of these drivers, it's coming down to the wire as far as when they want to come through and how it's going to play out for them position-wise once things are all said and done here. So Jamie Knopf at this point in time, with his lead at this point in time, it's going to be a real gamble here for Jamie, and I think he's well aware of that. Because really, it's going to be a real shuffle for the field here tonight. Once the drivers that are currently on the lead lap and on the oldest set of tires make their way through pit road, it could very well be that Chad Goodingsman here, the number 9 machine, finds himself as the next race leader. But it's going to be a matter of when the rest of the field decides to come through pit road and where they come back out on track. It's going to be real interesting here, folks. Here goes Kyle Mollering, his pit stop here underway now. So again, slowly but surely, drivers making their way down through. Here comes Kenny Meadows, the 96 machine, deciding it's finally time. And there we see Chad Goodingsman currently a lap down here, but he's going to unlap himself as he passes the leader. And here goes Jamie Knopf making his way down through the pits after seeing previously second place driver Kenny Meadows come through. Jamie now going to decide that it is finally his time here as well. And now it's going to give the lead to Barry Stevens for however long he decides to stay out here. Barry Stevens going to take it another lap around before he decides to come down through pit road, and maybe even a few more depending on how he's feeling with those tires. And frankly, it doesn't look like he's looking too bad at this moment. Jamie not back out onto the field. He currently sits 7th place at this moment. And again, I got to think that Chad Gunningsman, he potentially might have this one in the bag here if he can keep that car moving at the rate he is, as Barry Stevens now works his way through pit road. John Binder is the last driver that's going to be ahead of Gunningsman, keeping him from the lead here tonight. And once that's all said and done, 26 laps left to go on the top left of our screens. That is not a whole lot of time left here for things to, well, I mean, anything can still happen in those 26 laps, but it's definitely going to be a lot harder to make things happen for drivers. As John Binder now making his way down through pit road. Once Chad Gunningsman is ahead of across pit road there, he will be the race leader here for the Double Down 210 for the 2022 MSRA Rapid Fire Pizza Nationals. Also brought to you by Old School Ninjas. There it is, Chad Gunningsman, our official race leader at this point in time. While that's underway, folks, we're going to go ahead and take another short commercial break. Stay tuned and don't go anywhere, and we'll be back for more iRacing right here on Team Goon Squad. Welcome back, race fans. 21 laps left to go here. Jamie Knopf having retaken the lead here, with Kenny Meadows just behind him, and Chad Gooningsman in that third place spot. Now with Jamie Knopf being on nearly 20-lap newer tires than Chad Gooningsman, as well as Kenny Meadows, the lead that Chad Gooningsman had was quickly diminished here over time, and ultimately going to give that lead back to Jamie Knopf here. Right now with 17 laps left to go and green flag pit stops having gone underway, drivers now finding themselves about as spread out as they possibly can. And I'm understanding that the number 50 machine of Jeffrey Meyer has received a 1-week race suspension for intentional retaliation or failure to control the car. So, very unfortunate to hear that for Jeffrey Meyer after that incident we saw earlier. Let's actually go back for just a quick second and take a look at that incident that we saw earlier pertaining to the 50 machine. So here we see, this is from lap 66. They're down onto the inside of the 61 of Daniel Simmons, sending both of them up to the top of the racetrack there. Colby Baber also getting involved in that one with heavy front end damage, also finding himself out of the race. Mike Howerton also collected in that incident here as well. So ultimately, the powers that be decided that for the 50 machine, he will not be able to race in next week's race, which I think, unfortunately for Meyer, will not only cost him a race car here tonight in a race, but probably a shot in the playoffs here. I can't imagine that Jeffrey Meyer has too many kind words to say right now, but what a race that it has been, that's to say the least. And frankly, for these drivers, it has been wild. We've seen multiple drivers in the in the playoffs, as well as just competing in the race in general, finding some difficult moments here at Las Vegas. And while it has been a relatively caution-free night, it definitely has not been exempt from them. So with 12 laps left to go, hoping to see the green flag stay out and the white and eventually checkered flag fly here for these drivers, as we get ready to see the action eventually come to an end. And for Jamie Knopf, going to be an incredible night for the number 28 machine, and going to find himself potentially a win after tonight's race. So Jamie Knopf going to be looking for his second career win here for the 2022 MSRA Rapid Fired Pizza Nationals. Kenny Meadows, the second place driver, going to ultimately be looking for a good points finish here tonight, and I think in second place after Jeffrey Meyer is ultimately going to find himself I think at this point it's safe to say that Meyer is no longer in contention in the playoffs, which is sad to say the least, for Meyer. But fortunately for Kenny Meadows, that's potentially going to give him a spot going into the round of 8, race number 2. We will have to wait after tonight is all said and done and where the points stand and who ends up where going into next week's race at Homestead. With 6 laps left to go, and only 10 drivers currently on the track and on the lead lap, it is going to be, well, relatively straightforward finish for these drivers. I mean, I can't imagine that anyone is going to be pushing it too terribly hard in these final 6 laps. I mean, we're seeing gap times of 2, 3, 5 seconds. I mean, we're starting to see a little bit of fight happening for some drivers, particularly here with Chad Gunningsman and David Santini. They're about a half a second between one another here at this point in time, but for the rest of the field, I don't think we're going to see that dreaded, I'm not even going to say it. I don't want to say it because I don't want to have happen what happened last time. For the folks that were tuned in a little bit earlier in the race, that instant commentator's curse coming out basically instantaneously. I don't know. Yeah, anyway. 4 laps left to go here, and the field is just clicking off laps here at this point in the race. And Kenny Meadows, the driver in contention for the playoffs, going to finish the highest amongst the field here with, I believe, that is going to be Barry Stevens potentially, but yeah, he potentially might have a spot here going into the next round of 8. So for Kenny Meadows and for Barry Stevens, these two drivers, I think Kenny Meadows potentially, I think definitely might have a spot here going into the next round. Barry Stevens, I am not 100% certain on that one. It might be, we'll have to see after, Evan Longacre sitting in that 10th place spot here as the white flag flies. It's the last lap here tonight, and frankly, this is going to be a wild, wild night for the playoffs once things are all said and done. And for Jamie Knopf, it's going to be another win for the 28 machine here tonight. Papa Giornella. Oh man, I thought I was coming here to see a contest of people making pizza. Oh, Mollering with a little bit of contact there as we come across the checkered line, but there it is, folks. A relatively smooth and easy finish here for the drivers on the last lap here tonight, with Jamie Knopp, Kenny Meadows, and Barry Stevens taking home the podium here tonight. Jamie Knopp with the win for the Double Down 210 for the 2022 MSRA Rapid Fired Pizza Nationals here for race number 1 of round of 8. And while Jamie Knopp here in the 48 machine burns it down on the checkered line, let's go ahead and get ready for our post-race interviews. And see what some of our drivers have to say here. The first of which going to be Barry Stevens. Here in just a moment here while I shuffle everyone around here that I need to have up here in the booth. Some other drivers here will be just a moment, but while we have a moment here, let's go ahead and start off our post-race interviews here with that of Mr. Barry Stevens, and get his words, get his thoughts on tonight's race, because frankly it was just a wild, wild finish here tonight. Barry, do you have a read, sir?
Go ahead.
Can you read me?
Yeah.
Sounds like we're having a little bit of technical issues here getting Barry Stevens here on the podium here.
Can you hear me?
I can now, a little bit. I can hear you a little bit better now.
That better?
That'll work. We can make it work.
Great.
All right, Barry, welcome up here to the podium. Congratulations on your third place finish here tonight. What a race that we saw here at Las Vegas. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you might have a shot here going into the next round of 8, having a shot at the championship here as well, nonetheless.
Yeah, I'm peaking at the right time, that's for sure. My first half of the season, I couldn't get out of the bottom half, really, almost the bottom. Things started to come together in the middle of the season. Towards the end of the season, started having some top 5s and some top 3s, and now here we are in the round 8.
And into the round of 8 we go next week to Homestead. I mean, tonight was a tough race to begin with, but heading into next week at Homestead, it's an own track of its own right, and it's going to be a tough race there as well. What are you kind of preparing for, and what are you expecting for at Homestead?
I have absolutely no idea at Homestead. It's probably one of my worst tracks. I have never been able to figure it out. Just seems like you just wear out your tires and go slow. I got to find speed.
Well, hopefully you'll be able to find that kind of groove, that speed that you're talking about, and kind of find that similar success that you saw here tonight at Las Vegas, carrying that into the next round of 8. But Barry, before we let you go and celebrate your win here tonight, is there anyone watching the broadcast, anyone at home that you want to shout out and thank before we go?
Well, I'd like to, at home, I'd like to thank my beautiful fiance, Janice, who I think watched it on broadcast. I'd like to thank Dave Santini, the owner of OSN, our racing team. I'd like to thank Evan for Rapid Fire Pizza, who's the sponsor of our league. We have a great league and a great group of guys, and I'm way in over my head doing as good as I did tonight. These guys are some excellent racers.
Well, you did a phenomenal job here tonight, Barry. You made it look easy, and you put on a good show, and hopefully next week we see that 78 machine back up there in the front, clicking off laps, and hopefully you see some similar success next week.
Thank you, sir.
Absolutely. Have a good one, Barry. Alrighty, folks, that was Barry Stevens, the 78 machine, coming home with third place here tonight. Kenny Meadows is up next in the booth Kenny, sir, do you have a read?
Yes.
Welcome to the booth. Congratulations on your second place finish. Kenny, I gotta say, it is a tense moment, or well, a tense battle here in the championship. Taking a look at things, we received a word that Jeffrey Meyer, the 50 machine, received a 1-week suspension after tonight's race. And looking at the points, things are looking a little dicey for the next round of 8. I mean, it seems to be that either yourself, Barry Stevens, Evan Longacre, it's going to be a throw-up in the air as far as who is going to be in those final 4 spots here. But talk to me a little bit about your night here tonight, and did you expect to come home here on the podium here at Las Vegas?
Yeah, the car was great. The bumps in turn 1 got me a little bit. Last in the spring, I won here, so I knew the car was gonna be fast. I just wasn't sure that anybody was gonna be as fast as Jamie tonight. But yeah, it was good. And then if that caution hadn't come out when I was in the lead earlier, I feel like it would have been a different result. I think I was walking away there. Other guys used the tires up, but I needed the long run, and it just didn't quite fall that way tonight.
It definitely seemed like it was a short run race here tonight, but we did see a little bit of long run action towards the end of the race, which again is probably not ideal for someone like yourself looking for those long run stints. But either way, either how, Kenny, you were able to come home with that second place spot. And I mean, even after seeing the field get spread out relatively thin here, seeing gap times of between 2, 5, 6 seconds, anywhere in that neighborhood, once you're kind of put in that situation, everything comes down to kind of a pit strategy game. And did you think that you could have maybe had a shot with strategy, or was it kind of up in the air with all of the, well, I don't want to say all of, but the intermittent cautions that we were seeing in tonight's race?
Yeah, I think it had maybe if I had pitted later there, I might have had a shot on Jamie, but really my car, I needed the long run, so I don't know if it would have made much of a difference for me. I know David, he was trying something, and I was really thinking about doing what he did. Glad I didn't, because it didn't work out for him because the cautions didn't fall. But yeah, I really think for me to win it, it probably would have had to have been just a longer run and no cautions.
Well, I think ultimately tonight's race ended up as well as it possibly could in your favor, given that we've seen multiple drivers here tonight get the short stick here in tonight's race, and having fallen victim to whether it's an incident or what have you, and taking it behind the wall. But for yourself, taking it across the line on the podium, always a great thing to be seen. So, Kenny, before I let you go here tonight and celebrate with your team as well as fellow drivers, is there anyone watching the broadcast, anyone at home in the booth that you want to shout out and thank before you go?
Yeah, I want to thank, all of my fellow competitors. They always help us put on this great show. Thank you for broadcasting this whole deal. Rapid Fire Pizza for sponsoring the whole deal. And then Old School Ninja. I think I'm getting David's team's name right. And then Brent Wall and Timothy Davis. They always help out every week. They're awesome supporters. And, and my fiance, I'd like to thank her. I think she may have watched a little bit. So, yeah. And, you for putting this on again. I mean, it's really cool to watch the broadcast back.
Absolutely. Well, I love being here. Love to call the action for you guys. It's always good racing, and it's always good to have you up here in the booth, Kenny. Congratulations once again, and I look forward to seeing you next week at Homestead.
Yeah. See you then. That's it's gonna be fun. I hope less cautions, and we'll have some good racing.
Absolutely. I look forward to it. See you next week, Kenny.
Yep. See you.
All right, that was Kenny Meadows out of the booth, taking home a second place here tonight. Last and certainly not going to be least here, Jamie Knopf coming home with the win in the number 20, well, the 48 machine on our screens, but the 28 machine in timing and scoring. Jamie, welcome to the booth. Congratulations on your second win of the season. Not exactly competing in the playoffs here at this point, but coming home with a win regardless. Always got to be a great feeling after tonight. It's got to be great. Feeling pretty good going into the next week's race at Homestead. I mean, at least I would hope so. How are you feeling about tonight's success, and what are your thoughts on next week's race going into Homestead?
I feel great about the win tonight. I knew I had a real good car on the long run there early. It was kind of hard to pass, so I'd burn my tires up trying to get in position. And once I got the lead there, I thought if I drove hard enough to stay in the lead, that when everybody's tires fell off, I would still be good enough to hold on to the lead. And I had real good long run pace. And then, so after we pitted, Kenny was like right behind me, and because he pitted a lap sooner, and then I was like, man, I hope his tires burns up a little bit quicker than mine. And then lap traffic kind of slowed me up 2 or 3 times and let him gain up on me. And I had ran real hard the run before, and a slow car, I thought he was going high, and then he went low, and then he went high again. So I had like a half a second lead on him, and all that went away. So, and I was like, man, he's probably been saving his tires, and I've been using mine up trying to, go fast for a few laps. But it all worked out. I got to thank Elite Performance Industries at EPI for all their hard work and all their practice sessions on Sunday to help me learn a lot about the track and gets me ready for the week.
Absolutely. It's always great to have a good supporting team behind you to give you what you need to perform as well as you can. But Jamie, after tonight's phenomenal win, looking very good out there out on track. The 48 machine, again, showing 48 to us, but 28 here in timing and scoring. Looking forward into the rest of the season, I mean, what's kind of your expectations and what's your goals with the final now 3 races of the season?
Yeah, I'm going to be able to finish the season out. So I like Homestead, but I haven't never really ran the Xfinity car there much. I've ran the trucks there and the Gen 6 cars there a lot. So I'm not real sure where I'm at on my driving for there. I might have to do a lot of practicing, but the races are on Thursday, so I usually have 3 or 4 days to practice for them. So hopefully I'll be in good shape.
All right. Well, I would give you the floor here to give your shout outs, but you already kind of went through them there. So Jamie, I'm going to go ahead. I'll let you get going and do your celebrating here with your team as well as your fellow competitors. Congratulations once again on your win here tonight for the Double Down 210. A phenomenal performance for the 28 team, and hopefully get to see similar success going into the final 3 races of the season.
All right. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, Jamie. You have a good one.
You too.
Alrighty, folks. Jamie Knopp out of the booth here, taking home the win for the Double Down 210 here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. That is going to conclude our coverage here tonight. Thank you all for tuning in and watching. My name is Mason Heimball with Team Goon Squad, bringing you the action. If you enjoyed what you saw, hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe. Catch all the action that we have here on Team Goon Squad 7 days a week. Once again, thank you all for tuning in and watching, and I will see you all same time, same place next week for race number 2 of the round of 8 at Homestead, Miami. Thank you all for tuning in, and I will see you all next time.